Today, I'm joined by professional MMA fighter Julius "The Boom" Holmes. Julius has an upcoming fight on Fury FC 75 on Friday, February 17th. You can watch it live on UFC Fight Pass. Before we talk about the preparation that you did for this camp, how does it feel to be fighting on UFC Fight Pass? I know it's the first time for you.
Um, Honestly, it doesn't feel very different. It feels good knowing that I have people and family all over the country, so they'll be able to watch it. And so in that sense, it's awesome because they usually have to wait till long after the fight when video is released to tune in and watch. But now they'll get to see it from their own home.
All right. How's the training camp been?
It's been great. It's been great. The last 2 weeks for me, the way that my weight cut goes is I usually diet down to weight,
Mhm.
so I don't really do too much the last 2 weeks. It's a lot of what I call old woman workouts where I just walk and do the elliptical
Mhm.
and just kind of leave my body in ketosis and melt itself. But it's peaceful. It's very peaceful.
Is that something you just started doing recently?
My last fight was the first time I tried it, so yeah, it worked. And I was like, this is way easier than burning myself out and feeling dead during the fight too. But this way, I feel my joints aren't strained.
Yeah, I'm sure weight cutting is the hardest part in the sport for sure.
I swear, you have two fights for every one.
Yeah.
Weight cutting is one of those
All
fights.
right. When did you start preparing for this one?
Geez, don't let me lie to you. I think I got the call in January. It was either the very beginning of January or Christmas week of December. And so I kind of had to rush because I'm a thick boy. I'm pretty hefty. So to get down to 170, like I have to be very disciplined and strict in my dieting.
All right. So is short notice fights something that's off the table for you?
Um, Hopefully not going on in the future. Me and my nutritionist and my strength and conditioning coach think we found a method to where I'll be able to walk around low 90s, high 80s, but also be able to produce and keep the same strength. I'm very strong for a 170 pounder, and so I've never really wanted to lose that, and so I've always feared walking around at a smaller weight. But I think we got it. So this next fight, we might be able to showcase that I'm able to do short notice.
Do you picture this fight hitting the mat, or do you think that the majority of this fight is going to play out on the feet?
Um, it's always hard to answer this question without sounding like a pretentious asshole, but I think it'll go wherever I want it to. I believe that Joe Borchik is a very game opponent. He's going to try as hard as he's going to give his best effort, and he's a very respectful guy. I do appreciate that about him. I've seen it, um, but I don't believe that there's anywhere in the cage where he can decide or change the pace into it in a manner in which I don't control what happens.
All right.
But I would expect standing up. I like standing up. I'm training with Jeff Neal, Ramiz Brahimai, which most people don't see that part of him because he's such a heavy grappler, but he's pretty good standing up. And so, like, working with those two, it's just striking is my thing now.
Yeah. And just to shift gears a little bit, because I love asking this question to fighters, how did you get into MMA?
I actually got into MMA because my when I was in junior high, the football coach was doing catch wrestling
Huh.
in the mat rooms for that they would usually use for physical therapy. And so I started like he would bring the football players in there, and we'd all just fight pretty much, fight with no strikes. And I had just started watching UFC at that time. It was around the same time as Ken Shamrock and Tito Ortiz, so it was a while ago.
Wow.
And so I just went in there and started choking people, and it was fun. And so then in high school, I found a wrestling team, and I joined wrestling,
Right.
and it just kind of incidentally fell into place from there.
Yeah. Do you think wrestling is the best base for someone that's just starting out in MMA?
I don't I don't know anymore. I feel like it depends on your body type.
No.
I feel like wrestling is and will always be a mandatory skill to have. But when you look at guys like Izzy, he doesn't have a wrestling base in the slightest form. Max Holloway doesn't have a wrestling base. Yair Rodriguez, who's coming up this weekend, doesn't have a wrestling base. Alexander Volkanovski doesn't have a fucking wrestling base. But they all learned how to do it. And so I think the sport is evolving into a state in which it doesn't really matter what your base is. It's about the skills you acclimate throughout your career before you hit the spotlight, you know?
Yeah. Well, you gained some experience in high school doing some wrestling. So how have the coaches at Fortis MMA helped you evolve your game?
I guess the best way that I could put it, it's like, how does a college professor help you in evolving your knowledge into whatever your major is? You know what I mean? Like, you could have some experience in high school or in like a community college, but there's a reason why high level, um, let's go at universities because I can't think of the actual word. There's a reason why high level universities are high level. It's because the people that they have on their staff are some of the most knowledgeable in that field. And that's what Fortis has provided with Saif Saud, for those who don't know, Charles Bird, who is the striking coach, and then also just a plethora of partners that I have. There's over 21 people in the UFC at my gym, and so it's like it's kind of hard not to take experience, knowledge, and wisdom from those guys who are doing what I aim to do. So it's helped a whole lot.
And I know the way your career started off wasn't ideal. You started off losing 2 straight, and now you're
Yeah.
on a 6-fight win streak. That's very hard for
Yeah.
people to do. It's hard to even get a win in this sport. So how
Yeah.
are you able to dig yourself out of that hole, and what did you learn about yourself in that process?
I took time. I took time away. I um I define that as the time in which I started changing from a boy to a man, in the aspect of I had that air of invincibility about me given my amateur career and how I ran through most of the fights, and then to have that kind of obstacle that came in the way, it causes you to rethink. And so I just I was very honest with myself, and it helped me find peace. And in that, I was able to grow to where I am now.
Mhm. Looking back, are you almost glad that your career started off the way it did? I'm sure then you weren't happy, but now do you think that you're in this position because of all those moments?
I'm glad for everything that has happened in my entire life. Um, there, there is no one without the other. You can't have good without having bad. There's nothing without balance. And so, for me to be for me to not be very happy with everything that's happened in my life would mean that I'm not happy with something that is going on now. And I definitely can't say I'm anything but happy with where I am. So I don't regret any of it. I'm very happy for all of it.
Right. I'm very glad to hear that. In a sport that can be so damaging to your body, what keeps you motivated every day, Julius?
Keeps me motivated.
Yeah. What keeps you motivated each and every day?
Just doing what needs to be done. I try not to base my life off motivation. It does get difficult when you don't feel motivated, but when you base your life off of motivation, a lot of times you'll miss the opportunities that you do get. So for me, it's more so about I chose to do this in my life. So if you choose to do something, then how could you be anything but grateful for every part that comes with it? So I'm just appreciative. So that mindset allows me to keep going even on tough days.
All right. So I guess a better question for you would be, what is your end goal in the sport?
I hate this question because I'm the worst at answering it. Uh, I have no end goal. For me, it will be what it is. Um, I'm Muslim, and so being a Muslim, you understand and appreciate the fact that we have control over nothing. And it's very similar to like Buddhist ideals in the fact that you control very little of what happens in your life. All you control is what you do in response to. And so when people ask me what my end goal is, it's like I want to be a champion. You know what I mean? I want to achieve success to um, where I can have earned peace and earned relaxation at the end of my life, and so I could take care of the people who have supported me. I have a tremendous amount of supporters, but whether that happens or not really isn't in my hands. So I'm going to do what I can to be ready for whatever happens.
Well, personally, Julius, I want to see you in the big show. That's what that's what I want to see. I want to see you in the UFC throwing some hands. That's what I'm trying to see.
I don't see too much stopping that from happening. You know, I don't see too much.
As long as that's on the radar, that's all. That's all I care. Man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But moving
That
on.
or, see, I do like ONE FC
Yeah.
just because the weight cutting thing. Like I said, I'm hefty, so if I don't have to cut to 170, I can just weigh in at 85. Oh, it's perfect.
Yeah. UFC, ONE FC, PFL, Bellator, you name it. I'm down for wherever you go.
Thank you, brother.
But moving on a little bit, I want to talk about your fight versus Chris Pacero. You know, you showed clean boxing in that fight. You eventually got him out of there in the second round with a nasty rear naked choke. But what impressed me most about you during that fight was how calm and calculated you were. So how do you stay so composed in the octagon despite all the chaos?
I think it's just consistently putting yourself in a situation to deal with chaos, so it's not adverse to you. Um, I I fought a lot growing up. I fought a lot throughout my entire life. I've had a crazy, very crazy, crazy violent life. So it's for me to the transitioning. It's actually harder for me to fight like in a cage in a sports situation than it is in actual life. So for me, it was more so understanding the new rule set in which I have to fight and the chaos that I had to deal with, and that is the doubts that come with. All right, with these new rule sets in place, am I as capable as I am when I'm completely free?
Right.
And so um, through training consistently and constantly putting yourself in chaotic situations, you just become used to it. You know.
Yeah. If you get the job done Friday night, they hand you the mic. What are you saying? What is it you want next?
Uh, Honestly, I would just say Alhamdulillah. All praise be to Allah. This is His story. This is His journey. I would thank Fortis MMA. I would thank um, David Quintana, my strength and conditioning coach. I would thank Viet with Cloud Nine, Turbo, my striking coach, and then my family, my nutritionist Samantha, my mom and dad, my uncles, my aunt, my grandmother. They're huge supporters of me. So that's all I would really. That's all I would really say. We're not really at the level to where there's anybody that I feel to call out because I don't feel like there's really anyone that's an issue at the level in which I'm at. I firmly do believe I'm the best 170 pounder not in the UFC. So I'll say that, and then if anyone disagrees, then we can do that then. Yeah.
Well, before I let you go, there's a lot of UFC cards that are coming up.
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
fight you're looking forward to most? I know I always see you on social media posting you watching boxing or MMA events each week. So you're always
Yeah.
on what's going on. Who you got in these upcoming ones?
Who you asked the one I'm most excited about, right?
Yeah.
Um, so obviously Islam is one of my favorite fighters, but the Usman and Edwards card, that entire card looks amazing.
Oh my.
I'm super excited for that. I really hope Usman's healthy.
Yeah, me
Uh,
too. I hope that hand is all right.
the hands are so tricky, man. Like they're very fragile. If you break it, it's just gone. Like that's just it forever.
You know,
But to answer your question, sorry. I think the Islam Volkanovski fight is the one I'm most excited about. But the card, as far as MMA goes, is Usman Edwards for sure.
for sure. For sure. The co-main event there's Justin Gaethje, Fiziev. That's
See,
a banger
it's
too.
gonna be crazy.
That's a banger.
Somebody get knocked out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Julius, I really appreciate your time. I look forward to watching you fight on Friday. Make sure you guys all subscribe to UFC Fight Pass so you can watch him throw some hands February 17th. Are there any last words you have, and can you let people know where they can find you on social media?
You can find me on social media at Julius Holmes, JuliusHolmes on Facebook, and then Julius Boom Holmes on Instagram. Please, anybody who has any questions, wants to send well wishes, needs anything, I don't mind communicating with people. But mostly, thank you for reaching out, Nick. I appreciate you being here with me, and hopefully we can talk and I'll get to know you more. I felt like I just went on and on about myself.
No problem. I love hearing about you, man, about the fighters in general. So I really appreciate the time again. That's all I got for you, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
See you.
Take care.